Welcome everyone. This is the first energy risk clinic of 2023. The Institute of Risk Management, Energy Renewables Special Interest Group. So just for people that weren't aware, it's the Thursday, 30th of March. For people in the Middle East and maybe beyond Middle East as well, Ramadan Kareem. I know it's a special time, so glad you could make it. For everybody else that is choosing, hold on, let me just move to the next slide. Just wanted to make sure. So we are actually recording this session. So if you choose to be on camera, please make sure you're comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable, there's absolutely no problem if you just switch off your camera. Throughout the session, there will be chances for you to interact with us, to ask questions, etc., and give your opinion. So you can unmute yourself, but please make sure that you are on mute if you're not speaking. And yes, like I said, right now it is Ramadan. So if you're on screen, please make sure that you're not drinking or eating, just out of respect for the people that are on this session are actually fasting. And I think that's all of the administrative things out there. Yep. So this is the agenda. We'll start with a usual introduction to the IRM and the special interest group. Then we'll get to an introduction to the committee members. So the committee members that are actually here will just quickly introduce themselves. Normally, during a normal risk clinic for the people that have joined before, we would just go for an open discussion, which really is the point of the risk clinic. But for this time, we actually have a guest speaker. One of the committee members from the Saudi group has raised some interest. I wanted to give a small presentation. So obviously, we're very welcoming to these kind of initiatives. Then once we've actually had that guest speaker has his presentation completed, we'll move over to the open discussion where you can ask questions on the actual subject of the presentation, or otherwise any other potential events or publications that you think are interesting, or even some type of hints for what kind of research we should be looking at. And then at the end, we'll just have to close out and hopefully everybody will be happy. All right, so I think that was already most part of the welcome. Now, just for everybody, just to remember, and for those that have not joined before, the Energy Risk Clinic really is a very open forum. We really try not to force any subject or try to come up with a specific direction that we want to talk about, except obviously energy industry and risk. So as the special interest group, we're interested in hearing from our audience. So basically from the people that we're working for in this case, and trying to understand what do you think is interesting right now in the energy industry, and specifically when it comes to risk. So like I said, it's an open forum. We're welcoming any types of discussion, any types of questions, any type of suggestions. Obviously, we have limited time, so we can't go on forever. It's my job to moderate, so I'll be doing that. But it's really just for us to understand, okay, what are we interested in terms of risk in the energy industry? And that's kind of all that's all we've limited in this case. So, all right. Now, obviously, I've mentioned already. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, can I just add? Some people might not be comfortable speaking or asking questions. So if you do want to ask a question, you can always put it in the chat and it can be discussed at the end of the presentation. And it might be something that people can get involved with. So feel free to comment and ask and raise questions in the chat whilst the speaker is speaking. It's a free forum, as Rijk has said, so use it as best you can.
All right, great. Now that's a good addition. Yeah. Yeah. So I've already mentioned the words on the screen right now a few times, right? So IRM and the Energy Renewables Special Interest Group. So the chair of the group, which is Alex, is going to give a quick introduction to the IRM and the Special Interest Group, and let you know why we're here, basically.
Thanks, Rijk. Yeah, so the special interest group has been running now for a couple of years, few years. We've run some surveys, we've published some thought leadership documentation. We've also been involved in the annual predictions and trends, risk trends publication that the IRM have been doing from the very start. We've been one of the first to be involved in that. The committee, we have some members here today, but the committee is made up of people from all over the world, different nationalities. We've got people from Lebanon, we've got people from South Africa, we've got people from Ukraine, myself and Grant from Australia, but living in Turkey. So it's a wide range of people. We all bring different expertise to the committee. We try to engage with our members to encourage the writing of articles, the writing of publications, and the more the merrier. We're looking for members. So please, if you're not a member, but you're attending this, feel free to join. You don't have to be paying, you don't have to be an IRM member to be a member of our group. So just join and join us in all of these risk clinics, as well as the conferences that we hold. And we're hoping to do some collaborative efforts with some of the other regional groups and special interest groups. As we mentioned, we've got someone from the Kingdoms of Saudi Arabia and Bahrain group speaking today. We're going to have another sort of more conference-like event where we're going to have speakers coming next time. So it's always an interesting session. So I don't want to speak too much about the group other than we want to get the word out there that everyone is welcome. Energy and renewables, anything to do with energy, we're open.
All right, thanks, Alex. Yeah, so talking about the diversity of the committee members, so I'll start with introduction. I'll start with myself since I'm already speaking. So my name is Rijk. I've been a member of the committee for about 2 years now, I think. I'm currently working in the United Arab Emirates in the energy industry as a enterprise risk senior specialist, which is not a surprise, I guess, being in this particular forum. I've been in the Middle East for about 15 years, 16 years now. So yeah, I've been here for a while. I think, Alex, you've already introduced yourself. You want to talk a little bit more about yourself?
I've been in energy for a while now. I've worked at Lukoil in Iraq and in Dubai. I've worked at Saudi Aramco, establishing enterprise risk management. I'm currently working in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, working with various energy type organizations. I've done work with energy companies from Nigeria to Pakistan. Grant, our other member, I actually met in Pakistan on a job for an oil company. So yeah, I've been doing risk management my whole career, more than 20 years now, aging, and studied risk management at university as well. And I covered everything from risk resilience, business continuity, all of that kind of stuff. So over to you, Grant, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Alex, and thanks, Rijk. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you here today. So, Alex, when you talk about 20 plus years, and Rijk, 15 years or more just in the Middle East alone, yeah, I think, once we hit that 20-year plus mark, I stopped talking about how many years, but my background is in electrical engineering, so very much been in the energy sector, everything from electricity, oil and gas. Really looked at the full value chain in terms of oil and gas. Also spent a little bit of time working in banking and financial services in risk management, just for a bit of a change of scenery. But worked with a lot of major energy companies all around the world, implementing enterprise risk management, running transformation programs. These days, I'm a global ambassador for the Institute of Risk Management, and really happy to be part of this committee where we're doing, as Alex and Rijk have said, a lot of work looking at what's going on with energy and risk on a global basis. Mikhailo, across to you in the Ukraine.
Thank you, Grant. Hello, everyone. Well, I do come from Ukraine, having more than 8 years of heading risk management function across energy, oil and gas, and insurance sectors. Now I'm also doing my PhD research in risk management with a focus on energy sector, hopefully this autumn I will finally defend my thesis and will add this DR prefix to my name. And I was really honored in the end of last year to receive a European Risk Management Award in business continuity, the topic like super vital in Ukraine, in energy in particular. So we're doing really a lot of practical job in this respect. Relatively new to the committee, really much enjoy working with the team. It's a great platform to discuss all the new trends, and I'm really happy to contribute. I don't know whom to pass the word now.
Miriam.
Yeah, I see Miriam is there. Miriam, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Miriam Bouyounes. I'm a consulting manager focusing on resilience services. I work in Qatar. I have more than 10 years of experience in the Middle East, working with various clients in the energy sector. My background is a scientific background. I have a master's in nanotechnology and functional materials, and my other master's is in financial engineering. I have just recently joined the committee, which I'm very happy to be part of and to contribute. Thank you, everyone. I think anyone else is with us from the committee?
I think Sean, I think you're right. Sean,
yeah.
Find the person to introduce themselves.
Technical issues. Hi guys, I'm Sean. If you all can hear me, I've been in risk in the oil and gas, construction, consulting, whatever. Pretty much quite a number of fields except insurance for the last 12 to 15 years. I have been involved with oil and gas upstream, midstream, downstream throughout my career. And I'm involved in the Doha chapter as well for the IRM. So that's me in a summarized nutshell.
All right, thanks, Sean. I'm just checking. I think that's all. We have a few members that couldn't make it for today because obviously people still have a job to look after as well. Alex, I think that's all, yeah?
Yeah, that's all. And I think it's a good time to move on because we've got some new participants now. So.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, great. So I will now move on. So as I said, normally we have an open forum, which we still have, but we wanted to give one of the IRM members from the Saudi regional interest group a chance to provide his insight on specifically Saudi Arabia energy sector. So yes, please go ahead. So, hey.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, the host, the committee members, as well as you, the participants. And we hope we deliver a great presentation, especially about the interactions and interfaces between energy and the Saudi 2030 vision. It's a pleasure to talk also about this topic in specific. My name is Suhaib Al-Safh. I'm working as a senior manager for risk management in the Red Sea region with Aqua Power, with an 8+ years experience in the power and water sector. It's been mainly through operations and technical part, slowly into commercial, and now in risk management. So we've been applying risk management over the years on health and safety, on technical aspects, commercial aspects. Also with different certifications from asset management, risk management, and Six Sigma. There is a lot of details we went through, different types of risks, different methodologies of risk management, and most currently the public-private partnership, which we will explore later on. My background is a Bachelor of Science in Thermal Engineering and Desalination Technology, so it's kind of the old school energy. It's been likewise since studying all the way to my work experience. So we can start with the presentation, please. Next slide. So before we start, you all know that energy and water are major driving forces for any civil advancements. So they can be placed and linked to a lot of aspects within an economy, but we need to start somewhere. So where do we start? In Vision 2030, there are the national programs which are publicly available for anyone who's interested. You can just follow the below link you can see at the bottom of the slide. And there is the National Industrial Development and Logistics Program, and this is where energy comes in. It falls under this program. There is a total of 11 programs, and this program is specifically the one where energy is listed. The Vision 2030 is splitted into it has three major pillars, which is thriving economy, the second circle from the left. We have also the ambitious nation, as well as another one that is related to vibrant society. So these are the main three pillars. Under these three pillars, there are three levels of strategic objectives. And this energy comes with grow and diversity. And there are other cascading strategic objectives where they go from the vision part overall and step by step into the operational of the strategy. Okay, can we go next? So having said that, now we know where this energy is located in the Saudi 2030 vision. Now, there are some aspirations that is listed in this vision or a program. Can we move next? So we have the increasing of added value of generation and gas products. We have increasing of the contribution to renewable energy. Previously, there was utilization of crude oil, different types of crude oil for the power generation and seawater desalination. Seawater desalination was mainly with the technology of MSF, multi-stage flashing, which requires steam to operate. We will see how that changed now. And the last one was optimizing the hydrocarbon resources to support the national economy. So we have different chemical industries that can be used instead of simply burning crude oil, or these can be transformed into goods, and these goods can be exported. Now, to these aspirations, there's also a bunch of challenges. The first one was the limited coverage of gas network to demand areas. We have a lot of gas in Saudi Arabia, but since we were more reliant on the oil, so the gas distribution networks to demand areas is not yet in hand. However, this is being resolved now, and there was different announcements came up over the past couple of years about establishing new gas plants. Can we move to the next? Then we have the limited renewables component manufacturers in the kingdom. We are quite familiar with metal manufacturers, no matter what the metal type is. But with that renewables coming in and the phasing out of the thermal energy, there is another need coming out to have these components manufactured locally. And then there is a third challenge, which is about, let's click next, please. The use of liquid fuels in generation, industry, and desalination as the premium or the primary source of energy. So this one is as well needs to be phased out, and we need to seek alternative methodology to power all of these. So we can go to the next slide. So there's a lot of interfaces and a plethora of connections between energy and the other programs and initiatives in the kingdom. So the first one is about the quality of life program. The quality of life program is about the sports, it's about cultural events, exporting the culture in Saudi Arabia, renovating the heritage sites, and even transforming them into places where people can visit and have different activities that reaches even to leisure. So this one will also increase the demand for the energy. So we need to be prepared for that kind of demand. Can we click next, please? Another thing is the interface with privatization programs. So the first private project in Saudi Arabia, one which was I was honored to be working at for several years, was the one in Shaiba. And this was around 2005 or 2006. It has been tendered around that time. And since then, the privatization of or more specifically or accurately, the public-private partnership methodology of procurement has been adopted to tap into foreign sources of finance as well as local, and reduce the financial load on the government to establish a strong base for growth. Click next, please. Another thing which is localization. So to have this kind of transition from classical methodology of thermal desalination into new methodology and utilization of new energy sources, we have also to localize the technology. We need to have local competencies who are able to operate such kind of sites, and be able also to manufacture some of the components over here, maybe some of the chemicals as well that might be required to operate these sites. Can you go next, please? A major one also is the Saudi Green Initiative. So what is the relation with that in energy? It is mainly the reduction of emissions from power plants. So we have in power plants, we are burning fuel basically. So there's a strong commitment from Saudi Arabia through the Saudi Green Initiative, and it is actually one of the objectives that Saudi Arabia has committed to reduce the emissions and contribute to a better quality of air. Moving next, please. Then we have the Human Capability Development Program, which was also one of the Vision 2030 realization programs. So in that, we are speaking of preparing the staff or the employment for the industrial sector, how these people are going to be trained, what kind of education they are going to be receiving. Over the past few years, we are seeing new topics and even titles and the universities being issued, and people are graduating from there. They are receiving the suitable training and then working at the industry as relevant. Can go to the next slide, please. So setting the stage for growth. So far, we've been talking about theoretical stuff that are basically plans and ambitious aspirations where we want to reach and how we want to transform, which is looking as good on paper, just like as good on physical and on the ground. We are here setting the stage for growth renewably. We have already several projects around the kingdom in solar PV specifically. which were operated in the past few years. We have Skaka, which is currently under operation with 300 megawatts. Sudair, which is currently under construction with 1,500 megawatts. And we have Shuaiba, which is a new project as well, having 2,060 megawatts. So all of these projects, and even much more than that, is coming into solar PV. Can we go to the next? And also wind, we have different projects. This is just to name a few of them. Dawmat al-Jandal, 400 megawatts, which is in operation. We have other new projects, Tabarjal, which is 400 megawatts, Al-Hanakiya, 1,100 megawatts, and Yamba, which is 1,800 megawatts. So you can also see how we started having projects with lower capacities, and this capacity is increasing step by step. And it is not just that. Let's go to the next and see what's over there as well. We have green hydrogen, which we have some projects now in partial operation, so to say, which is Jazan project with 184,000 cubic meter per hour of hydrogen production when it is finalized and in operation. And we also have Neom green hydrogen with 600 tons per day. So lately we have also signed a hydrogen fuel supply agreement, which is going to be also in the Neom, the future city. Okay, can we go to the next? Which is a very special project, a state-of-the-art, which is the Red Sea project. It is on the coast of the Red Sea, and it is a kind of an ultra-luxurious vacation destination where people have illustrated this in the picture as operated renewably. So there are different energy sources over there and a very complex kind of grid, which is microgrid, and it is completely renewable, and there is no connection to the normal grid or conventional grid. So there is no thermal energy at all over there with crude oil. So we have different PV sites over there with the 340 megawatts total capacity. We have battery energy storage system as that is capable of holding 1,200 megawatt hours. We have ICE, which is internal combustion engines operating with biofuels with a capacity of nearly 109 megawatts. In addition to that, we have also water plants based on RO technology, reverse osmosis, with a total capacity of 32,500 cubic meters per day, and also sewage treatment plants with a total capacity of 18,315 cubic meter per day. And it's really interesting that the STP is also the largest one, is also another state-of-the-art plant where the sewage is treated through plants, a special kind of plants where the sewage water flows through, and then these kind of plants will clarify the water step by step. And this water will later on be used for the irrigation around the entire projects. It's not just only that, we have just here talked about the energy and the water sources, but there is also a district cooling, a huge district cooling plant, and also waste management facility. So this is the really state-of-the-art project. We've been talking so far about the vision of Saudi Arabia, where the where the outlook is and how it is really ambitious, and it has been already started on the ground to see some of the realizations of this vision. Now, let's zoom out a bit and see a global view of risks overall in the world. And this is sourced from the World Economic Forum, the link you see below. And this is just a bunch of risks that has direct relations and we can relate to when we talk about energy. So click next, please. So first of all, the natural resources crisis with overexploitation of natural resources, including coal, including oil, gas, and any other source that is not renewable. The next, please. We have also natural disaster and extreme weather events. So we've seen lately several locations where hurricanes striked. We had different earthquakes, not necessarily linked to weather. We're talking about weather and natural disaster in general over here. And this also has links to the energy in terms of the availability, in terms of the supply chain disruption, a big topic over the past couple of years. And probably even the delays in projects under construction. Can we move next? Cybercrime and cyber insecurity, one of the major topics that is now under the radar, or maybe even under the lens, where we are exploring it in details, and there is even regulations developed for this kind of risks to ensure that the generation, the distribution, and transmission are working or operating reliably. Can we move to the next, please? We have also failure to mitigate climate change. If we're not able to, put actions and start working on reducing the kind of risks that might come from the climate change, like floods, like raining, and even what they call pluvial floods, and heat waves. This will all impact the energy, whether it is renewable or conventional. I can move to the next, please. Severe instability, which comes to the mainly the political aspect, and the potential of imposing economic embargoes or closing some of the nautical marine shipping ways, which will also lead to different impacts on the power generation mainly. And the last one, you can click next, please, which is about infectious diseases. Thank God we have passed through Corona, and we had really troubles with sourcing spare parts, sourcing chemicals, as well as even the management of the infections within the facility. So this is the risk outlook. Let's go to the next slide and see. This is part of the global risk outlook. So let's see how this is influencing the energy sector, specifically in Saudi Arabia. So we have the energy strategy, and most specifically the energy mix. How are we going to use energy? Where are we going to deploy the assets? And what kind of technology are we going to use? There's a wide variety of technologies to use. How are we going to manage supply and demands? For instance, we have now under the Ministry of Energy a department called Kafa'a, which looks at the efficiency in power plants, and also have a media campaign to influence people to use things like energy saver light bulbs, saving energy in different locations, developing criteria for the electrical equipments and even cars related to their efficiency, and influencing the public to follow these guidance. So we can see also regulatory changes. We have now the what we spoke previously about, the cybersecurity risk, which is a major one. We have the National Cyber Security Authority, which is regulating and auditing different infrastructure aspects and developing different regulations for them to follow and guidelines as well. And also we have another one. Can we click next, please? which is about supply chain disruptions. Now we are talking about, and previously we had things in management like just in time and the kind of Six Sigma where we reduce the amount of storage that we have and so on. But with supply chain disruptions, how are we going to mitigate that and further improve our operation practices such that we don't step in a place where we are having difficulties with operation or we need to stop the production of energy. And it is also important that we develop a kind of partnership. We don't just simply use the suppliers and the freighters as service providers, but as partners or strategic partners, such that we can work together on information exchange and on planning our requirements. So having said that, we need now to go to another major part of this presentation, which is about how risk can impact from strategy to operations. We have a lot of interconnections, again, a plethora of connections with different aspects of the economy and the nation. So let's just see a bunch of things. Let's go, please. So in strategy, we can start, and then we will move to operations. So starting with energy, let's click next, please. We have the different fuel mix, as we said, adoption of new technology, which we see now hydrogen, and we even have other byproducts like ammonia. And so this is basically what we discussed in aspiration with optimization of the resources. We have to look also into the value chain, not just what we need. So it's not just like, okay, we need to build a solar plant, let's say, and so we need to source the solar panels. No, we need to look, okay, what do we need to manufacture these solar panels in Saudi Arabia? How long? What kind of competencies? Where shall we put it if we want to do it? And so we are looking into the entire value chain, and we are also moving into energy conservation, which is being now in the media broadcasted to the public. Going to the operations, supply chain, as we say, as we saw a bit earlier, that there's can be disruptions with supply chain and how this these risks can influence supply chain and have stoppage of operation ultimately to resolve these issues and work hand in hand with the providers. And also we have impacts on budget. When we have increase in inflation and we have stoppage of some plants somewhere if a disaster or a natural event striked, and another source is being exhausted for production, we are going to have increased prices as well. So how are we going to accommodate these within the budgets that we have? And then we have the competency, which is also about the development of new competency. People used to work in with big behemoth thermal plants. Now we have, so to say, simpler in terms of operation, renewable plants when it comes to solar, PV, and wind. And we also have impacts on availability, which is mainly due to the either cut in operations or because of some strike of a natural event. Okay, we can go to the next. Before we see the next slide, I just have a question. Will the mentioned WEF risks have an influence on Saudi NEOM project completion also from energy perspective? Definitely, yes. So when we talk about the NEOM project, definitely there's a lot of aspects to that project. You know, green hydrogen is just one project over there, and there's a lot of other projects that might have even impacted by other risks that has mentioned in the global risk report. And this needs to be taken seriously because as we move to the future, we will be knowing. So we need to set some indicators to see how these risks are going to influence us and start putting them for control and mitigation actions. So in conclusion to that presentation, we have seen that we need to foster a holistic view. The kingdom have set different aspects, and really each initiative, or let's say a vision realization program document, is a huge set of information, and it provides a holistic view and putting relations between different aspects of the economy rather than working in silos or ad hoc. We need also to work with integration. Also in each program, we will see so many governmental entities working together to deliver the vision or objectives of that program. We need also to work in systems. We need to set the objectives, start putting the operational strategies and starting moving towards them, identifying the risks rather than just working on ad hoc basis and having things scattered around. And finally, also we need to synergize with local entities as well as global entities, and this can be seen through the opening of more foreign investments in the kingdom through public-private partnerships, something that is being more adopted now and being looked at to push the wheel forward and maintain progress even more in the same manner. So synergize is definitely about keeping collaborations and connections with our partnership, with our partners. Finally, let's go to the next slide. And last but not least, we'll see that we have different opportunities that might be also realized over the achievement of the Vision 2030 and the energy aspirations that we have. First of all, we have the realization of the objectives that has been set for the Saudi vision. And when you go to the 3 levels we talked about, you will see that there are, and the number is increasing from level 1 to level 2, the number of objectives, the strategic objectives. So we are realizing the entirety of these objectives because, as we saw, energy is connected to the different aspects of that. We are going to have more stability in terms of the renewable energy and the energy mix by also managing the demand side as well as the supply side. So the demand side, we are talking about the use of energy, and the supply side, we are talking about the energy extraction and transformation into a usable tool to drive the economy. So we are going to have more stability on that level. We are also having economic advancements in terms of manufacturing, especially of the required sources or spare parts, let's say, for the energy, the also chemicals that we need, especially in seawater desalination. Moving even to the seawater desalination, the kingdom have moved to RO technology more than before. You don't have any more new thermal desalination plants. And even the old ones are starting to phase out slowly over the past few years and over the next years as well. And also we have another opportunity for employment. As you saw in the slide where we spoke about the projects, these projects are scattered around the kingdom. There is no specific one or centralized location where these projects are located. So we are offering now and having employment opportunities all around the kingdom. So we are employing the people from the location where we are developing this project. So that's all. I guess we have another question, which is, so the question is, as we know, risk can also be positive in terms of opportunity risk. What are the opportunity risks have been identified with Saudi NEOM projects? Have there been any lessons learned so far from these? So I can't talk about that, the other projects, because I don't have specific involvement in that, except for the NEOM green hydrogen, where ACWA Power is a shareholder. But definitely, if we look into the proposals of the projects and the media and how these projects are being marketed for, definitely we can spot some of these. For instance, we have the project which is called The Line, which is completely visionary. It is something that completely transforms how people are living, keeping facilities close, enhancing the quality of life through vegetation and sports, and keeping basically physical movement rather than using cars, using delivery services, and so on. So definitely there is a lot of opportunities that can be seized, but at the same time, we need to make sure that the risks are controlled. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much for listening and paying attention.
All right, thanks a lot. So hey, much appreciated. Give a little bit of insight in what's happening in Saudi, and then definitely really good that you tie that back to the World Economic Forum, the Global Risk Report. I think that was very insightful. All right, so thanks for answering those questions, and thanks for asking the questions. Before we continue, is there anyone that has any questions for Sohaib?
Hello, hi. Good afternoon and Ramadan Mubarak, everyone. I have received this invitation from Sohaib. He is a great work colleague when I was in ACWA Power. And hi, Sohaib, thank you for the presentation. It was very fruitful. I just have a question regarding the energy strategy. Now, as the technology is being developed and enhanced day by day, are the risks of the energy is being reflected in the digital twin and the smart city strategy?
Okay, thank you, Noura, for joining us. It's a pleasure to see you again, and Ramadan Mubarak. So definitely, yes. So the Kingdom have established the National Risk Unit a few years back, which was really shows how the Kingdom is into risk management and serious about it. And even there was a transformation where the Risk National Unit have established a risk unit in each of the ministries. This is another one. And the risk management function is also being established at other governmental entities. So definitely the digital comes part of these, under one of these ministries and entities. And so definitely risk management is considered under such initiatives.
Okay, thank you, Sohaib. Thank you, everyone.
You make a very good point there regarding the progression of risk management, for example. I think going back to the initial question earlier about the NEOM project, these massive giga projects that are coming out require new regulation, updated regulation. You're breaking grounds that no one else has. So you're getting that unique perspective. I remember when Qatar won the World Cup and realized we need to update how we do things. And they have been. They've been improving their processes, improving their regulation. And we're seeing the same in Saudi Arabia. We're seeing the same with this push for risk management. We're seeing spillover into the education system, where now we have, because of the requirements of risk management, we're seeing there's education now in risk management in Saudi Arabia. I've seen plenty of students now and graduates with their risk management degree from Saudi Arabia. It's absolutely brilliant. And that's not just for risk management, it's across the board. So when we talk about opportunities, and thank you in your presentation for finishing on opportunities, I really liked seeing that. When we talk about opportunities, this is the spillover opportunities that goes across society. You mentioned employment. You've got the diversity aspect, females in targeting, getting your aspirational targets for female workers in the workplace, and we're seeing the increase every year. It's just all of these opportunities coming in at once, along with the risks, such as from an employment point of view, can we get enough people in position? Is there enough resource out there from a supply chain perspective? So you've got both sides of it, and I think you really highlighted that well. So thank you.
Thank you. Indeed, actually, there is a lot of regulations that have been reviewed over the past few years, and especially moving into such kind of global, public-private partnerships. And even the difficulty here is that Saudi Arabia's law is civil codes rather than common laws, which is practiced in other parts of the globe, like the United States and UK, as far as I know. So you need to look into a huge amount of documents so that you can put something. So this gives also another level of integration between the different laws and regulations. Okay, I see a hand up.
Yeah, this is my hand up. Sahib, thanks a lot for your presentation, very insightful. And one point really triggered myself from your presentation when you said that we need to review and reset all the key arise system towards the new risks when we were talking about World Economic Forum risks. Because we need to totally review it and to reset it based on the new emerging drivers, new emerging risks. And maybe this is the point of education for our colleagues from World Economic Forum. It's very nice that they outline the risks, but if we follow the traditional ISO cycle, risk management cycle, now we need to understand what are we doing and how do we monitor this risk. Are our risk mitigation measures effective or not? And this is also supporting Alexandra's point in regards of education. So thanks a lot for your presentation and raising this point. And I think it will be a good issue to discuss during our committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michailo. Now, before I go to the next subject, I see there's still one question from Sean asking if nuclear is going to be included in the energy mix as well, considering we talked about solar, gas, and hydrogen. So he's asking, is nuclear included in the energy mix?
Well, so far there is no clear announcement on that. Yeah.
Just to add on to the question, it was not just I was in the middle of typing, so I got cut up. Okay, so nuclear, first of all, is a question to find out how wide your energy mix is going to become, and it's not just limited to nuclear; it's also other, renewables, etc., if any. And especially with NEOM and all the developments there, that's going to be quite energy intensive, as you well know, whether it's for actual lighting, power, utilities, whatever it is going to be excessively energy intensive. So that mix and ensuring you have some redundancies, whether it's 50% redundancies or 100% redundancies, that's why I'm asking the question about energy mix. The next question is, when it comes to your risk management for this, the way I understand it is there's a governance structure for NEOM, and then underneath that there are several different projects with different risk managers, etc., 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 for example. And the question around that specifically was how much of this risk management is still human dependent, and how are things going to change to become, and I hate to use the buzzword, but to start involving AI and everything else, but not really about AI. The real issue is you have to automate these things as much as possible up to a point, and if AI comes into play, great. How much of that have you done, and where are we on that, if any? And what risk do you see from your side from that perspective?
Okay, so let's take it to the two parts. First of all, regarding the energy mix, we need to say that there has been combined cycle plants And this is where the kingdom is looking to continue and not phase out those combined cycle which are operating through gas. As we saw, we want to even influence the use of more gas around the kingdom as one of the program objectives. So gas through combined cycle provides such a huge amount of energy as well as stable supply of energy. Now, normally in renewables, we are not ending up with stable energy except in things like probably CSP, concentrated solar power, and also it has its own challenges. So there are still some reliance that will be there to supply through the combined cycle high efficiency energy or power generation. The second one, I will not be able to talk much about it because I'm not exactly in NEOM itself. I am working with a shareholder who's working in NEOM Green Hydrogen Project. So, but as an outlook, as again, if we zoom out, if we see that the kingdom is really committed to its objectives and involving risk management and making it part of the operation at ministry level, at governmental entities level. So definitely these things will be under the radar at minimum, because we can't talk today without mentioning everything is digital today, especially when it comes to AI. We've seen the crazy developments that took place in the past few months with ChatGPT and the competition over such kind of applications and tools. So definitely such things will be utilized when it comes to risk management. Maybe not necessarily these kind of stuff, but when it comes to risk intelligence, the analysis, and so on. There are another question. How do you see the geopolitical developments affecting the energy strategy from a short-term perspective? Well, this is quite unpredictable. So it's again about being able to maintain the same level of operations and progress and develop strategic partnerships, either to have the development of, let's say, the sources within Saudi Arabia, or to have different pathways to tap into these resources. And I need to say that Saudi Arabia is not just focusing of being resourceful, so to say, and develop things here, but it's the visions that we are seeing Saudi Arabia becoming as a hub indeed within the Middle East, and with its a special location in between 3 continents to be able to even export such kind of technologies and equipments. There is a follow-up to that questions, and how the technology is going to help in mitigating the risks, specifically software solutions. Well, to my understanding and my personal opinion, software solution is just a software. It's not about the software, it's about how you manage the system and develop the risk management system as a management system, and then tailor the software to serve the requirements of that system. So we need to focus on the risk management system first, developing it very well, keeping all stakeholders involved. In relation to the ISO 31000, we are speaking about the principle of inclusiveness, and then we can look into the software solution. But having a software solution will get you anywhere you want. You want to get somewhere, that will get you there, because it's just a software solution. You'll be following it. So mainly just focus on the risk management system development.
And I think this goes back to the AI aspect. I think once we have the AI developed around risk management, and we've already seen with ChatGPT that it can actually help build models for quantitative risk analysis. I think that's where the technology will actually start having an impact. Because as you say, at the moment, we could use spreadsheets. The software is just a database, and how we use that.
Yes.
Even quantitative risk analysis, we just need Excel for that. We don't need software for that. I think the added value will be the AI, where it can really help guide you. Going back to Mikhailo's point around key risk indicators, for example, I can guarantee that not very long from now, we will have a software company come out with an AI-generated key risk indicator system that's generated from certain industries and is always learning, and will start being able to finally give us a forward-looking trend of what is happening with risks, so that we're not waiting until it happens, like with the World Economic Forum, where they present these risks, and by the time everyone's read it, yeah, okay, well, this happened last year. Yes, okay, well, droughts. Yeah, okay, well, we've had drought. You know, we're always looking backwards, but how are we looking forwards with these key risk indicators, with the monitoring, with early warning signals? And actually there is an IRM article coming out very soon, I think in the next issue, on ChatGPT AI and how it impacts society, both positively and negatively, and how risk managers can use that. Going with all of these questions that we've seen and we've been discussing, is there any of the members that are present today, the 26 participants that we now have, is there anyone that wants to add to the conversation? Does anyone have any comments they want to provide that might answer some of these questions? Because you might have more expertise in the matter than the people that have already been speaking, answering questions and so forth. You might have something you would like to add. So if anyone wants to add anything, please feel free. If not, we can move on.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I think that will take us through the next part anyways, because that's an open forum, right? So thanks a lot again, Sohaib. Really appreciate the input and really interesting points of view, exactly. And I really like how you managed to connect it with the global risk report. You know, that takes the relevance into the next level. So really good.
Thank you.
All right, so now basically we're come to the open forum part. Like I said before, hold on, oh, not that fast. It's open forum. So if you have any questions around risk management in the energy industry, if you have any specific subjects that you would like to talk about, any specific developments in your part of the industry, your part of the world that you would like to raise, we can maybe have a closer look at that, have a discussion. I'm really trying to keep Sean, you know, to talk less about AI. He always tries to manage that and bring it up all the time. But obviously, if that's part of a discussion that we're also interested in, please go ahead and raise that even more. I think it's always good to talk about the newest developments in the industry and see how, first of all, how can it impact us? How can it affect us? And then secondary, how can we use it as an opportunity in terms of improving risk management? So I'll be opening the floor. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and I can ask you to unmute so we don't get too much of a chaotic scene in here. Otherwise, if you're more comfortable with asking the question through the chat, please go ahead and do that as well. And now nobody wants to ask any questions.
Well, maybe, Reich, maybe I'll say something just for a few seconds and then people might want to hear me shut up and ask some questions. So let's tempt fate. Just who here is based in the UK, just out of interest? Because there's a couple of topical things happening there, and I'm just wondering, it's just more of a discussion point maybe to keep things moving, might prompt some questions. This recent announcement that there's going to be a big investment and focus on CCUS, on carbon capture, utilization and storage. You know, from an energy sector perspective, you know, there's a lot of divergent points of view on that. And some experts are saying, you know, that's really perpetuating the use of hydrocarbons, you know, whereas the UK government is actually saying, we need to keep relying on hydrocarbons as part of the future energy mix and we shouldn't discard them. And I think it just sort of goes to underpin and highlight some of the systemic risks that we've been facing in a number of countries around the world in the rush to decarbonise and move towards net zero. We're suddenly finding that it's not, not as simple to do. So there's quite a lot of risks there and a lot of risk thinking in that sort of policy anyway. So Joy, you're from the UK. So I just wondered, maybe that's a discussion point people have some questions around or some risk management perspectives on. Just might be an interesting one. Or not.
Okay, I think what has happened is that Zohaib has mentioned to blow everybody away, and people are shy to ask questions now.
I just want to reflect on the energy mix again. If we look into the International Energy Association, the trends that they provide is really providing tremendous amount of information on how these renewable technologies are being adopted and worldwide. So we will see that there's no, the trend overall, the average is increasing. The moving average is increasing definitely in the adoption, but there are also other challenges imposed on that. So the public perception of that, sometimes it is influencing the energy worldwide in some of the countries. So in others, the economics of the country and the availability of budget, the acceptability of having foreign investments coming in to drive the progress. So there's, again, a wide range of let's say, items impacting the adoption of this kind of energy and reaching to ambitious level of net zero. And we need to know also, when we speak about net zero, are we speaking about net zero explicitly? Is it something linear that, yes, we will one day reach to a level where we don't we don't have emissions at all? Or is it about putting a carbon circular economy and planting trees, for instance, equivalent to the amount of emissions that we are going to have to eliminate these emissions? And but definitely so far there is nothing stable as thermal. Sorry, I'm quite racist about it. I consider myself as a thermal racist. It's my field of study, that big behemoth machines. So it is really nothing so far as stable as this kind of energy. So we need to be a kind of realistic as well when we talk about such ambitious.
I really like your point there, especially about the planting trees. There's a lot of organizations getting a lot of criticism now, at least in the UK. They've decided to plant loads of trees, to do their bit and to remain carbon neutral. And those trees that they're planting without having done the right research are damaging the local nature, local villages, local wildlife, and they're realizing it's doing more damage than good. Others are planting the right trees, but they're only going to get, taken down eventually anyway and used for stuff. And so what's the replanting strategy? And they haven't thought far enough along. So I just wanted to highlight that little bit when you mentioned that there. Plus I've got trees in that. This isn't real, of course, but trees in the background there. But yeah, no, that's a very good point. And I see Sean probably has a follow-on onto that. I know, Mikhailo, you have a question, but I think, Sean, you have a comment on this.
Yes, I have a comment. Trees. I'm not sure if any of you noticed. I think it's JP Morgan. I think the big bank in the US recently bought like $500 million worth of, added $500 million to their existing holdings of trees. And this has now got to do with the whole carbon credits, circular economy, being able to trade carbon credits, everything else. So there's a lot happening in that space when it comes to carbon capture, in the same kind of vein that Grant was talking about, but without actually doing anything. So they've gone on, and I think their portfolio is around about 20-something billion, if I remember correctly, and they've just added another $500 million. So on trees, just buying land for trees. So you can imagine they are setting up for the carbon dioxide futures price. So that's going to affect everything downstream when it comes to energy production, petrochemicals, everything else. Think about whether they export power, petrochemicals, everything else. This new regulation called CBAM in the EU is going to come and hurt. And whether or not you pay in the EU or you have ETS in your own country, that's going to be an additional value on top of whatever you're going to sell. So there's some stuff going on around this carbon capture. And if big banks are making moves, there's something going on.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Michailo, sorry for keeping your hand raised. I must be tired, but please go ahead.
I was digital hand. I'm not tired. It's okay. Yeah, I want to basically follow up on the question of Grant regarding the carbon capture, and also it's already been discussed a bit by Sean. We've considered a project within our oil and gas business in regards of what to do with the captured carbon. So basically, the most popular option at the moment is basically put it into the underground storage facility. So it is the most popular solution at the moment. But our Mother Nature provides sort of a solution that you partly have already mentioned, the planting trees. And basically, it is the follow-up of the photosynthesis. I remember my biology course at the school. So the plants, they consume the CO2 and utilizes it for the growth. And we considered a project where we put a greenhouse close to our gas rig, where we have the gas producing facility, to put a greenhouse with a willow, this sort of a tree or a plant that can be used for as the biofuel. So basically we put this captured CO2 into this greenhouse, then it fosters the growth of the willow like 2 or 3 times faster, and then you can use this willow as the biofuel for the, say, internal needs of this small gas village, where you can use it for heating or for electricity generation or stuff like that. The only problem with this project, it looks very nice, but the problem was the money. So the NPV of the project was very, very negative. And I guess once we are not having the sound financial support for this type of activities, it will not fly. And also mentioned by Alexander, by Sean, in regards to the territories and changing the ecosystem. You can plant a zillion of trees, but you can harm the existing ecosystem in this way. So we need to consider how we can stimulate the alternative and new ways of capturing and utilizing this CO2. That was my point. Thank you.
All right, great addition. Thanks, Michailo. All right, so one of the things that, I know I'm the facilitator, but I actually have a thing that I would like to bring up as well. It was touched upon a little bit already, but obviously, I'm sure everybody's following the news around the banks having problems with, credit and basically the duration risk management of bonds, etc. Now, all of that is obviously it's a result of the increased interest rates across the world by the central banks. I don't want to go into the whole macroeconomic story, but obviously for the energy industry, that's going to mean that there's going to be difficulties in getting funding, right? Because money is becoming more expensive. There's less liquidity because it's easier to get interest rate when you leave your money on the bank risk-free. Is this something that companies, the companies that people are working for in this meeting, is it something that's being considered, that over the next couple of years, be able to get funding or simple loans, etc., that's going to be more complicated, it's going to be more difficult? I could see from a risk point of view, that's definitely something that you want to look at. Now, if nobody has considered that, maybe that would be a good takeaway, but I'd just like to get the opinion of the audience here.
Big issues. Not sure if I can talk about this. I'm just thinking if I was bound by confidentiality. But anyway, I know that here in the region, in the country, organizations have started looking at the positions of their banks or the risk position of their banks and confirming it around to verify that the banks are not at risk and they didn't have any holdings tied back to some of the major banks that we see are collapsing. And what's that done is people rechecking their positions on how they're going to finance their projects. And if the banks, I think in general, you've got mandates in some countries, and I don't know which countries, I don't want to specify which countries, but they specify organizations can't hold 50% of their holdings in one bank, more than 50% of their holdings in one bank. So there are strategies that organizations are using. Without being too specific, I just realized there are some specific details that I can't talk about now that shouldn't be in the public space. So yes, let me just stop right there.
I think one of the big challenges is a couple of people have said in the chat, ESG and green finance, yes, very big thing. We're seeing these moves, but equally, do we want to have it in is this the next sort of, bond challenge? I don't mean James Bond, but I mean bonds as in what, helped to bring down or which helped to, give a reality check to the markets in recent weeks, that we can get too leveraged up on ESG investments. And I say this for a number of reasons. It only takes, if we start to look at the geopolitical factors there, it only takes a few major economies to suddenly turn around and say that, we've had enough of this, that there's a line, we're going to draw a line on the leverage or the amount of ESG funds and what have you. And if that happens, you start to, squeeze the liquidity a little bit, and in turn, you start to then impact the value of a lot of these investments. So are we looking at the next ticking time bomb? Don't know, something interesting, but I think it's certainly something that we as risk managers should certainly be keeping our eyes on. Very much an emerging risk in my view, that one. That's just my view, could be wrong.
Yeah, if I may add to that as well, there is an extensive work specifically on credit risk and currency risk taking place whenever there is a financing requirement for risk management. For a public-private partnership project. As we saw, there's a lot of adoption now in the kingdom for such projects, and it was much more previously adopted in United States and even other than energy sectors like transportations, hospitals, schools, and different types of contracts. So when it comes to financing, as Grant said, there is bonds which hold the maturity for several years. There are loans, and there are also the owner equity. So we have different sources of income, and normally when it comes to loans, there's also a local lenders, and there are international lenders. And those international lenders, do we have the kind of regulations that is enough to ensure that they will be providing the financing according to the contracts? Do we have the, or do they have the capability to understand the market, or they need to go through an export credit agency to manage the risks for them for having their money somewhere else in the world? So there's an extensive risk work taking place during the studying of financing the projects. And more also importantly is that is the country or the project an investment level grade when it comes to credit rating? And is the credit rating used, is it more of a soft one, or is it a strong one that goes into the details that the lenders are interested to see? Yeah.
Additionally, when you're doing your KYC now, anyone who does KYC or due diligence for partners, supply chain, EPC contractors, whilst in the past we've looked at fraud, we've looked at the economics of the organization, we've looked at who are the main players. Something that we should be looking at, and indeed there is software out there for this, is the ESG rating of said company or country. Because especially if we're going to be dealing with finance that is going to be requiring ESG related scoring, we should equally be doing that for our supply chain, for our key partners. And this goes back to something that someone's mentioned in the chat around green finance, so an ESG based funding. So yeah, it's something that we should be considering rather than just talking about, oh, ESG finance is going to be big. What are we doing to ensure that we are positioning ourselves going forward if it does impact us?
All right, thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. Anybody else got anything to add, or any other discussions, any other points they would like to bring up? I'm just looking at time. I think we've been going on for quite a bit already. All right, I guess if there's no other questions, hold on, let me just see. Just got an addition from Nora. Okay, everybody can read that. I don't think that's a short question. Okay, all right. So I think I'll be going towards rounding up the session for today. Now, before we get to the end, let me just click send. I'm sending all of you link to a survey. This is from the IRM directly, obviously from the event. They would like to hear a little bit, about your feedback. Just so they monitor the quality of the events, but obviously, have some things to look at going forward in terms of, improvements, because that obviously is always a concern. On top of that, just being reminded, Alex, the chair, he just mentioned that if you scroll up a little bit in his his message, he's shared the risk trends from the IRM. So the IRM, they do that on an annual basis now. They go to the different special interest groups and ask them for their predictions when it comes to risks. That all gets compiled into a nice report that the IRM basically publishes on a yearly basis. So the link is there. Please feel free to use that, read that, use it again. And obviously, if you have any questions, you can always come back to us. Our risk clinic happens every quarter. So at the end of Q2, we'll be having another one. Will be the same type of forum where we basically give people the opportunity to ask questions. Now, if anybody feels like, like they want to take on the challenge, just like our star player of today, Sohaib did, please feel free to volunteer if you have a presentation that you would like to share or something that you think is relevant to the energy risk community. Then by all means reach out to myself or reach out to the chair or Grant, the co-chair, and then we'll obviously be able to give you a slot during the next risk clinic. Yeah, I think that was all, except let me go to the last slide. So thank you very much for joining us today. The link here, this is basically what gets you directly to the special interest group website. So that's our personal website, or our group's personal website on IRM, where you can see the events, the presentations, and also the link to some of the thought leadership that we put out. And I think that is probably all from my side. Thank you very much for attending. And I think, Alex, I will leave it to you to close out and mention anything, state farewell, things like that.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And thanks to our speaker, our panel of people who are involved in answering questions, and to everyone who attended. We will also be running another event very soon where we will have a theme. It's not going to be like an open forum. It's going to be a theme. We haven't selected it yet. Most likely it's going to be around green hydrogen. That's the discussion we've had in the committee. Green hydrogen in general, globally, as well as in key places such as Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but also in other locations. We will have speakers talking about the recent initiatives, the challenges, the risks, and the opportunities that we see with it. Other than that, Raik, you've said everything. Thank you, everyone, and I'll leave it at that.